What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. This is the channel where we sit down and cover different comic book stories from different comic book companies. Today we're going to jump back over to Marvel Comics, and we're going to cover another Avengers book. But this time we're going to cover Secret Avengers Volume 1. Yes, Secret Avengers Volume 1. This was an interesting storyline because this is an Avengers team that is basically a Black Ops team. They are off the books and is led by Captain America, Steve Rogers, Captain America. But this is an amazing book because you do bring in a lot of characters who do fit the idea of a Black Ops Avengers team. So I do hope you enjoy today's comic book video. If you do, please hit that like button down below and subscribe. But here we go. So we open this book up picking up with some Roxxon Senior VP. If you don't know who Roxxon is, well, they are this shady company that has their hands in everything that is illegal in some kind of way. We see this Senior VP walking around with two ladies, who at first may seem to be escorts. He is thinking that he is going to have some fun with these ladies, except that is when we find out that these are not escorts, that this is actually Black Widow and Valkyrie. This is giving us the first look at the Secret Avengers that is being led by Steve Rogers, Captain America. Now, I think at this point, we still have two Captain Americas, one being Bucky, aka the Winter Soldier, and the other one, of course, being Steve Rogers. I could be wrong, but this is the Secret Avengers coming here to get some kind of item that Roxxon has taken. And of course, the Avengers think that Roxxon should not have this item. So of course, we see them fight off guards. Captain America comes in to help out, and then they take whatever item Roxxon had. Except while this Avengers team leaves, well, that is when we see that we have some new kind of organization that is going to play a role in this story, watching them leave. We then come to find out two things after that incident. The first is that Beast is another member of the Secret Avengers team. We then learn about the item that Roxxon had, which is called the Crown of Tentacles. I have a hard time saying that. Now at this point, this was a new thing created by Ed Brubaker in this story. Beast says he is having a hard time watching the tentacles that are on the crown moving, like they are moving between the motions. But Beast's goal is to study the crown to hopefully learn more about it. The next page shows us that Steve Rogers had asked Sharon Carter, better known as ex-SHIELD agent or Agent 13, but also his girlfriend, to join the team. So we have met most of the team, but there are still more members who we are going to meet here very soon. We then pick up with Moon Knight and Ant-Man. Now this is the third Ant-Man, Eric O'Grady. This was, for some fans, the worst character to put on the Ant-Man suit. His origin is just that he was a SHIELD agent. He got the Ant-Man suit through some crazy things happening. He is always trying to prove that he is a good guy, but relapsed to his old bad guy ways. Either way, the two of them are here to break into this other Roxxon building. The reason why is because they are looking for more information that Roxxon had on the Crown of Tentacles or anything else that relates to it. The information they found is being sent to Beast, Captain America, and another member of this team, War Machine, aka Rhodey. The information Moon Knight and Ant-Man have found tells the Avengers that apparently Roxxon was digging on Mars. Of course, that makes the whole team wonder why in the world was Roxxon digging on Mars for. They were digging on Mars for other resources for the world, except the digging site was closed down and the workers on the site have been erased like they never existed. So the question is, what was Roxxon's real reason for digging on Mars? So now the team is going to send someone to Mars to check it out, because there is another member of this Secret Avengers team. before we can learn more about this final member of this Secret Avengers team, well, that is when we see someone is falling behind the Avengers jet. Of course, the new organization we only saw briefly in the beginning of this video. We still don't know who they are, but of course, they may have some kind of connection with the Crown of Tentacles and Roxxon. But then the story jumps forward 2 days later. We see Captain America talking to the Secret Avengers team about getting ready for space travel because they're going to go to Mars. There are 2 reasons why. The first is that the guy Captain America has sent to Mars is missing. We are going to learn more about who it is here in a minute. But the second reason to see if maybe Roxxon has something to do with the person missing. So you have Steve Rogers tell us who the last person of this team was. We finally learn that it was Nova, Richard Rider. Now, he was part of the Nova Corps. It was Marvel's version of the Green Lantern Corps, but they only protected a few galaxies, not the entire universe. I could be wrong. At this point, the Nova Corps is dead, and Richard Rider is the last member, so he is wearing the World Mind, which gave the Nova Corps their powers. Since they are gone, all of that power is going to Richard Rider. Getting back to the story, he was on Mars, but he was getting attacked by Roxxon in their random dig site they had. Except when he goes into some cave to hide in, well, he finds a second crown, and this one is the Thorn Crown. But we see that it was able to take over the mind of Richard Rider and make him get rid of the World Mind helmet, and he puts on the Thorn Crown. Now, one member of the Secret Avengers stays on Earth to watch over their base, while the rest of the team goes into space to deal with the Mars problem. That person is Sharon Carter. Except while Sharon Carter was chilling on the jet, well, she detected someone was following them, but they were already on the jet. So she goes into defense mode, but she's taken out by Nick Fury and some members of this new organization. But he tells us that this organization is called the Shadow Council. But the question is now, why is Nick Fury on the Shadow Council? So the next chapter, we see Sharon Carter waking up after being knocked out and coming to find out that the crown she had, or the Avengers had, the crown of the tentacles has been taken, and the Shadow Council was using some kind of tech that was able to keep them hidden from the cameras on the jet. So Sharon Carter is unable to get a look at them, but she was able to track the Crown of Tentacles energy signature. So she is going to track it down and get the crown back from the Shadow Council. We then jump back to the Avengers team that is on Mars. This is the team trying to learn more about Roxxon and what had happened to Nova. Except while they are walking around Mars, they do find the dig site that belonged to Roxxon. Except when they go deeper into the dig site, they find out that even though the site was closed down months ago, apparently someone has been there only a few moments ago, and they also find the dead bodies of some of the workers. That is when the team on Mars gets attacked by some members of the Shadow Council. You know it's them because that is when you see them fighting against some of the Avengers, and they're wearing the Shadow Council outfits we saw when we saw Nick Fury on their side earlier. Now, while the Avengers are fighting against these guys, Steve Rogers and Black Widow realize that the Shadow Council are fighting like they are being controlled. They are not working together, except when it comes to the last 2 people of this group of the Shadow Council. When Steve Rogers wants to ask them some questions, they kill themselves before Steve Rogers was able to ask them some questions. That is when you have Steve Rogers look into some of the other members of the Shadow Council's eyes to see their eyes are pure black. To Steve Rogers and the rest of the Avengers, they have no idea about the Shadow Council, but This gives Steve Rogers more questions now, so he breaks up the Mars team into 3 teams to figure out everything that is going on Mars. We then pick up with Nick Fury, who is working with the Shadow Council. Well, he gets word that something is going on Mars with the Shadow Council members that is on Mars. So he then tells us that he is going to meet up with the leader of the Shadow Council to tell him what is going on. Getting back to Mars, we pick up with War Machine and Ant-Man. They're on a team right now, and they are checking out a base that could be owned by Roxxon or could be owned by Shadow Council. Now, War Machine tells us that there are no life signs in the base, but while they are checking out the place, well, that is when Ant-Man disappears. He goes through some kind of portal, and of course, War Machine did not see it. So War Machine, who already doesn't like Ant-Man, thinks that Ant-Man is now playing golf somewhere. But the story does jump over to Beast and Captain America, who are trying to figure out what happened with Nova. So they go to the last spot he was at, which of course was when he found the Thorn Crown. Except while the two of them are looking around and trying to figure out what happened to Nova, well, that is when they are attacked by some unknown character. We will get to know him very soon, but we have to move on to the other group of the Avengers. The last group of the Avengers is Black Widow, Moon Knight, and Valkyrie, where they have found Nova, but the problem is that they see him being controlled by the Thorn Crown, except they also see that the Thorn Crown is controlling Nova and the men at this dig site to, of course, dig something up. Now, while they are waiting around trying to get some information on what they are digging up, well, that is when the Avengers get attacked by Nova, who is under control by the Thorn Crown. We then jump back to the year 1865, and we pick up with another new character named Mayor Elias Thorndrake. Of course, this was the Cowboys' days, but we see him and his crew chasing down some convict, except one of his men tells him that the person they were chasing had just disappeared. So of course, you have Thorndrake tell his men to show him where the convict had disappeared. Of course, they have found the vanishing point, and this is going to help us explain what's going on with the story in the Crowns. But at the same time, we see Ant-Man has found the vanishing point. Remember what I said earlier, how Ant-Man disappeared. Well, he found the vanishing point, this random portal. We have to jump back over to Beast and Steve Rogers, who are being attacked by our new mysterious character. His name is Archon. We don't get to learn about him just yet. He is also looking for the Thorn Crown, but Steve Rogers was able to realize that he is the protector of the crown. So Steve Rogers was able to calm him down and explain that they're on the same side. Remember, they have found the World Mind helmet, Nova's helmet. That tells Steve Rogers, Beast, and Archon that he knows where the crown is at. At the same time, Valkyrie calls up Steve Rogers to tell him her team is being attacked by Nova, who is under control. Now, if you are wondering what had happened to Valkyrie's team, well, they have been taken down. So right now, it is up to her to stop Nova. Now remember that I mentioned that the Nova Corp was destroyed. So all the powers of the World Mind have been given to Nova. So he is really powerful at this point in Marvel Comics. And now he is being controlled by the Thorn Crown. So of course, he was able to defeat Valkyrie and tell his men, the Shadow Council, to continue to dig into Mars for something. So this makes Steve Rogers worry because he now lost contact with Valkyrie. So he calls for War Machine and Ant-Man to come back and meet up with him, Beast, and Archon. Except War Machine tells Steve Rogers and Beast that Ant-Man is now missing. We know why, because Ant-Man had found the vanishing point. But the story moves on. But getting to Ant-Man and seeing where the vanishing point has taken him to, well, we see that he had ended up in Texas. So he is back on Earth, except he is now in the base of the Shadow Council. So we are beginning to learn more about them, and we learn more with Nick Fury. Now remember, in this chapter, we met Elias Thorndrake, who was back in the 1800s as a cowboy. He disappeared because he had found the vanishing point. Well, we see in the present day, he's the leader of the Shadow Council, and this is Nick Fury working for him. So you have Nick Fury tell him that with everything going on at Mars and that the alarms they have set on the vanishing point went off, they need to be concerned. So you have Mayor Elias Thorndrake tell Nick Fury to send in the 9th Legion. Back on Mars, while Captain America, Beast, and Archon are heading to Valkyrie, Archon explains to Rogers and Beast that Nova is going to break down the barriers that keeps an ancient being called the Abyss from his prison. For the Abyss to return, his darkest child must be released first, and then the darkest child must release his brothers. We also learn that the Thorn Crown is the darkest child controlling Nova so that he can be released. Also, there is a third crown, but that crown comes much later in the series. The 3 crowns were made by the Martians, of course from Mars, because they were trying to release the darkest child, the darkest child's brother, and the Abyss way back then. The Watchers created Archon and his brother Archons that stopped Martians from doing that, but now they watch over the planet to make sure that the Abyss never comes. This Archon is the last one alive. Now you have Archon trying to fight against Nova, but Nova is being controlled by the darkest child. He's a tad bit more powerful this time, so this leads into Nova actually just beating Archon, to the point that Archon can no longer fight anyone, so now it is up to Beast and Steve Rogers to actually stop Nova, except they just watch Archon get beat down by Nova, so they are a tad bit concerned on how they are going to beat him. Now remember that Sharon Carter was looking for the Shadow Council, but when we pick up with her, we come to find out that she has lost them, so she is freaking out what to do next. Except she comes to find out that Ant-Man is in Texas and not on Mars, and he's in the base of the Shadow Council. Ant-Man tells Sharon Carter that he has seen the Shadow Council send some of their men in the vanishing point, and they are getting ready to do something big. But getting back to Mars, we see that Captain America, Beast, and Archon are wondering how in the world they are going to stop Nova. Well, that is when the Worldmind tells Steve Rogers that once Steve Rogers puts on the helmet, Steve Rogers will get the powers of Nova. Nova will lose his powers, but still be powered up because the darkest child is powering Nova. So you have Steve Rogers put on the helmet and become Captain Nova? I really try to think of what to call this character, but yes, Captain Nova for Captain America. Before we can see the fight, we do see Thorndrake is leaving for some other reason, but Fury's goal is to stay behind and hopefully deal with the Avenger problem on Earth and Mars. Except you have Sharon Carter talking to Ant-Man to tell him that he needs to stop the soldiers who are using the vanishing point to travel to Mars. So we see him about to do something. So we jump back to Mars. We get to see Steve Rogers fighting against Nova, and honestly, the fight is pretty intense. At the same time, you still have the Shadow Council still there fighting as well, so the rest of the Avengers are fighting against them. But while the fighting is going on, the seal is beginning to open and the darkest child is beginning to come into this reality. So now there are tentacles flying around, and Akron is trying to stop that from happening. So it is the beginning to look like everything is about to fall apart for the Avengers. Ant-Man saves the day because with the soldiers who are using the vanishing point, that is basically a teleporter from Earth to Mars, they all have some nukes on their suits, which then Ant-Man basically used his wasp sting to blow up the nukes that blew up the vanishing point. With the destruction of the vanishing point, it destroys the base on Earth the Shadow Council was using and the dig site that is on Mars. That then leads to Steve Rogers being able to pull off the Thorn Crown off Nova, which of course stops the darkest child and his brothers from coming back and stopping Abyss from coming too. Now the book closes down with Nova leaving back to the Guardians, so he is off the team. Akron left after giving Steve Rogers and the Avengers more information about the 3 crowns. We only see 2 crowns. The third one will not come until later on in the series. You didn't have Sharon Carter show Steve Rogers that Nick Fury is on the Shadow Council. So the question is now, why is Nick Fury working with the Shadow Council? And this is where we are going to end today's video. So please hit that like button down below and also subscribe to the channel for more content to come in the near future. Also, any suggestions on books I should read, well, please let me know in the comments below, because you never know, your suggestion could be a future video down the road. But I do hope you enjoyed today's video.